When you were born, I told you life was very big and unknown. There were animals and cities and music. You'd fall in love, have passions, have meaning. But now it's 1979 and nothing means anything. And I know you less every day. I think maybe you guys can help me with Jamie. How do you be a good man? What does that even mean nowadays?
Don't you need a man to raise a man?
No, I don't think so. I think you're what's gonna work for him.
You just feel guilty because it's just me and you.
You don't know what I'm feeling. Men always feel like they have to fix things for women or they're not doing anything. Just be there. Somehow that's hard for all of you.
No, I'm not all men. Okay, I'm just me.
Well, yes and no.
I see the shapes.
Having a kid seems like the hardest thing. How much you love the kid, you're just pretty much screwed. You get to see him out in the world as a person. I never will.
Hello and welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for Mike Mills' third feature film, 20th Century Women. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today is Dylan Platt.
Hello, happy to be here. Talk about a movie. Usually I've watched something. This is a director I've watched nothing of, so it's interesting.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, I have not seen anything from this director either, but obviously...
it's usually more the case than myself. So
yeah,
that's
true. His latest film, Come On, starring Joaquin Phoenix, is about to release in Australian cinemas. So yeah, we thought we'd finally check out one of his movies. 20th Century Women is one I've seen. Like, it'll pop up on like streaming services available to watch. I'm like, I should get around to watching that. Never did. So now we've got a reason. So we finally watched the movie. We're about to talk about it. So please be aware we will be freely discussing anything and everything about plot themes and ending of the movie. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. With that said, let's jump to a discussion of 20th Century Women, directed by Mike Mills, written by Mike Mills, starring Annette Bening, Elle Fanning, Greta Gerwig, Lucas Jade Zumann, and Billy Crudup. In 1979, in Santa Barbara, California, Dorothea Fields is a determined single mother in her mid-50s who is raising her adolescent son, Jamie. At a moment brimming with cultural change and rebellion, Dorothea enlists the help of two younger women, Abby, a free-spirited punk artist living as a boarder in the Fields house, and Julie, a savvy and provocative teenage neighbor, to help with Jamie's upbringing. Dylan, what did you think of 20th Century Women? What did you know going in? And then, yeah.
nothing. I didn't know anything.
Okay.
I've heard of the movie. I've seen the DVD cover or the poster, or whatever, you know. But I don't know anything about the movie. I've never watched the trailer for it. Didn't look up the synopsis. Just watched it. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. This is definitely one of my favorite movies I've watched this year. Straight onto the short list of favorite movies I've watched this year that aren't from this year for the end of year What Do You Want to Watch lists. It's just. Yeah, I was like, Annette Bening, the fact I looked at, I was like, was she nominated for this? I go to Google. No. I was like, this is an outrage. I should go back in time and get outraged about this. Because I was like, looking at who else was nominated. And I'm like, nah, dude.
She got a Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah.
Which at the time would have meant something, you know?
Yeah, at the time, 2016. Or 2017, I guess. Yeah, she's absolutely... Well, I mean, everyone in this movie is fantastic. So, not to say, like, it's just her. I think everyone in this movie is fantastic. She is just, like, sort of head and shoulders a little bit above everyone else. I think she just sort of makes this movie. She has such a, like... Sometimes I feel like when you get these really good performances where it just feels like someone's not even acting. And I feel like that's what she is in this movie. She just has such a, like... Just feel like... I don't know. Sometimes it's otherworldly when people give really good performances. And I think it's that, where it just feels like a real person. It doesn't feel like someone acting or whatever. So she's really good. I love Greta Gerwig as well, and Elle Fanning and Billy Crudup and the kid Lucas Zumann, whatever. Zumann?
Yeah.
Zumann. Everyone's fantastic. I love that the movie's just sort of this... how do you describe it? It's like a fly on the wall for a time period that's important in history, while also not really being about that time period, which is the interesting thing, I guess. Like, the film touches on the fact, like the year it's set, it briefly touches on events that are happening around this time. So be that punk music, the women's movement, whatever else political things happening at the time, they briefly touch on and stuff. But the movie's not really about any of that. It's just about a family going, an odd sort of collective group of people, I guess, who are a family to a degree, even though there's only, like, it's just a son and roommates or whatever. But it's just such an interesting group of characters, you know, like I almost wished it was a TV show because I just loved watching all these characters interact so much that I didn't really want the movie to end, and it did, and it's fine. Like it's a fantastic movie. I loved it, but I was just enjoying these characters so much. I just was disappointed when the movie finally wrapped up. I do love the ending. I think the ending's like sort of, you know, says it's trying to say something about life. I guess that's why you get all these sort of. The movie doesn't just end on these characters now. It says this is what happened to this character. This is what happened to this character. This is what happened to this character. You know, sums up their lives to a degree, and it's like, well, this is just sort of a couple weeks within sort of thing. I don't know, like it's just, but I loved it. I feel like I could watch it again now and honestly enjoy it as much. Like I enjoyed it so much that I feel like I could watch it now and still enjoy it. Like it's at that level, which not all movies hit. You know, sometimes you're like, I did like that movie. Come back to me in 6 months and maybe I'll watch it again, sort of thing. This movie, liked it so much I could happily watch it again now. Enjoy it just as much, I feel.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I think it's pretty fantastic. Like you said, fantastic performances across the board. Yeah, it's got an interesting style about it. Like, it's got although it's got like linear storytelling through obviously the events. There's a lot of flashbacks and there's like 5 different narrators for the entire movie. I mean, it's happily to jump all over the place and kind of explore each of the characters at its own pace whenever kind of fits to kind of give you that person's backstory and history and that kind of stuff. Yeah, just kind of really fascinating story that I think I want to say it's a coming of age movie, but again, it's kind of that weird family dynamic about it. But it could like fit all those things. I mean, it's, yeah, like you said, a really interesting point of time. There's some really interesting conversations and discussions. I feel like obviously there's, we'll get into each of the characters, but like, there's, again, like kind of little breadcrumbs splitted throughout, like I kind of lead you to, which makes their backstories make more sense, or make their decisions going forward kind of make more sense and that kind of stuff. So yeah, might as well start off with Annette Bening. I think she's amazing, and Dorothea. I love how this movie opens with, obviously there's a little bit of a backstory, but yeah, with a car on fire. And then she invites all the firemen over to dinner. You know, that's such a homey, like, you know, she's this kind of lonely, middle-aged lady who likes to be surrounded by people, so doesn't feel as alone, I guess.
Yeah, and they make sure to quickly explain that her husband, or I don't know if they were married, but anyway, he ran away. So
yeah, they separated and he kind of like drifted out. Yeah. You know, I think her progression over the movie and like kind of realizing that she is maybe a bit lonely and not putting herself out there, and opening him up to her son. I think the interesting thing is, I know you said you love the ending, but like it's kind of an epilogue, like them talking about how their lives end up. But before that, it's like her talking about his father, like for the first time. Like, did you ever really love him? And like, no, I think I just found somebody to love because I was scared of never finding somebody to love, which is fucking depressing. Like, like, yeah,
she does find someone.
I think, yeah, she does find somebody. And, you know, maybe it's accepting that you are sad that it allows you to become open to those things. Yeah. So yeah, I think amazing performance. I think it's interesting, her idea of, yeah, let's get these 2 other people to come help me raise my son. One of them's this random 24-year-old boarder who's in my house who's just dealt with cancer, and the other one is clearly the person my son is in love with. Doesn't seem like
you
the
reckon,
best.
To be fair, I don't know if she's as clued on to their relationship until like at least halfway through the movie as she may seem.
I don't know. She says something about heartbreak early on, like, to him, because like I think it's pretty obvious she's going out with other dudes. I'm sure she picked up on that scent.
I just love how however many nights she'd been sleeping there, like she doesn't realize
Every night, I guess.
Yeah, every night. She doesn't realize until that one morning.
Well, that's how it happens.
All it takes is one time.
Greta Gerwig, really fascinating performance. Like, obviously, got the hair and like, but it feels like I haven't seen a lot of Greta's roles, but it feels like a very Greta Gerwig role.
Yeah, she usually plays sort of similar stuff to this, I guess, in the early part of her career. And these, what you would call it? Can't remember the genre now. But anyway, I loved her performance. I thought she was great. The character is really interesting because it's like someone who's obviously carrying at the start of the film like this a lot of trauma and sort of anxiety and all this sort of stuff. Given cancer, makes sense.
Yeah.
And then as the film progresses, she forms up this sort of closer bond. What's the kid's name? I can't think of the kid's name. Whatever the kid's name is.
Jamie.
Forms up this closer bond with her. And yeah, I think one of my favorite scenes, or the sequences in the movie, is literally just from that moment. She's like, "Do you want to go out tonight?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then just walking downstairs, and he's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Out." Yep. Out. I'm like, bye. And yeah, that whole like out club scene or whatever else. Like, yeah.
I equally love the scene in which she comes back and then tells his mum exactly what happened.
Everything that happened. Sure. Yeah, but it's because the mum, she's never shown to be like a stickler of it. She doesn't stick up her ass. Like she's, you know what I mean? Like she's pretty freeing the fact that she has like these people staying, and
there's a line.
I would say more than most parents though is the thing, So there's an openness to her, and I think that that part where I think it's really interesting seeing where
you have that opening. You do have that opening montage where she's like providing a bunch of sick notes.
Yeah, exactly.
For absences and like
telling her off, like, why is he in trouble? Like, and then she sees how he forged her signature, and she's like, "That's really good. Don't do that though." All that sort of stuff. But yeah, you have. Also, think the interesting thing is like, because I love how earlier for Greta Gerwig's character, she was just set up about taking pictures of her belongings and like saying a lot about like being able to see her personality or her through the photographs or whatever the exact dialogue was that she was explaining to Billy Crudup's character. And then you have later, she's then doing that for him to his mother, for the kid's mother, and that Benning. So it's like, here's all these pictures of him, like you can truly see him through these photographs. It's like they sort of set up that earlier and tee it off later, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool line. Like, she's never going to see him as a person.
Yeah, she's like, it's like I never see him the way you do, or
really interesting. Kind of a way to bring two characters together. I think it's that the scene where Greta Gerwig's character and Abby and William hook up, and like obviously she's asked him to roleplay a certain way. And obviously, we learn later on that like she started having a relationship with like her teacher. It's like, was that a through line to that and that kind of stuff? I think it's quite interesting and like really interesting. And then obviously William like talking later about his relationship with women and like him never getting over his first love and then kind of somehow finding his way with all these women and not knowing what to do with them, I guess. It's quite interesting. That sequence like is so telling of their two personalities and histories.
No, it's really good that those two characters who aren't the B characters in this movie, they get like they do get this backstory and stuff, even though it isn't fully, well, it doesn't need to be fully explored. You know, like you don't need to suddenly dive into her. Like, does she secretly have this untalked about trauma from this relationship with her teacher, and is that why she can't have sex without doing role play to remind, you know what I mean? Like you could do a whole movie really about that character, but there's not really anything.
I mean, you could even dig deeper into her, like her relationship with her mother. Like that's to learn that she's got cancer because of the fertility drugs that she was. Yeah, that's a pretty.
Which I presumed was based on
fact,
a truth. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know, but I presume.
I assume there's probably another movie based on that whole premise.
Yeah,
it's like Billy Crudup is good, but you know, of the 5 main characters, he's probably the most supporting. In that, you know,
he is definitely. Yeah. Like the women are the stars, obviously. It's 20th century
women. Yeah. But yeah, I think he's good with what he's kind of given, and he's got this weird relationship with Annette Bening. Like, again, setting up, he kisses her and he's like, "What do you mean by that?" He doesn't know. Again, he doesn't know what to do with women. And then you've got Elle Fanning as like this very
well. I was gonna say, she's just a character of the time. Ultimately, there's really nothing special about a character. Like, I don't mean like she does a really good job or whatever, but really, she's written as a girl, like a stereotypical sort of girl of this period,
feminism
of the like that time. Yes,
yeah,
but
like I mean, both her and Abby are feminists, but Abby is not to the same degree as maybe not. But maybe that's to do with her trauma from her past.
It's different degrees, I guess, which you get to see in that scene about the periods, which was actually my favorite scene in the movie. So much so that I had to post
the menstruation.
I was just like, the menstruation scene. Sorry, it's just like so good, like just the dialogue and the delivery and everything. I was like, this is fucking pitch, but like this is really really funny. While also like having something to say, I was like fucking perfect. In that scene, the fact that Elle Fanning's character is like, no, don't talk about that. But I don't think, the thing is, that doesn't suddenly mean that, she's not the feminist and the other characters are feminists or whatever. It's just like like there is, 10 years difference or roughly, I guess, between the characters. They're from different time periods or whatever. And like one's sort of, Greta Gerwig's character is sort of coming into this different movement. Like I could see her going out later in like a couple of years from this, and she's out on the streets like protesting for sorts of things or whatever, while Elle Fanning's character is sort of growing up and preaching more about open sexuality, like you're not a slut if you sleep with, what I mean? It's like different elements of the same thing, so she's really an interesting character, and it's like I just think, obviously her relationship with Jamie is quite interesting. Like, why does she need to be in his room all the time? And that kind of stuff. Like, I think, she's just unable to open up to love, which, is a common thing amongst all these characters, I think. Yeah. Well, that's her problem, yeah. And then even in that scene where they get close to actually having sex, I guess.
In the last scene,
she gets so afraid that if they do it, it'll screw up what they have. And by that, she obviously means the fact that she has someone who she can sleep with and like feel comfortable with and like safe place and all that. And she's afraid if they go to the next level that it'll ruin that is sort of thing. That doesn't make it right. Like to the degree, it's like whenever Greta Gerwig's character talks about like not, like you shouldn't let her do that. It's like she is right to a degree, like because Elle Fanning is sort of using him as this, using him to a degree because it's very obvious that he wants something different, but also he doesn't really have that conversation with her. So it's like there's a lack of like sort of communication and like neither one sort of wants to discuss the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
From the majority of the movie, it's like they both know Like, she may pretend she doesn't know, but they both know.
Well, I mean, she doesn't go up the coast unless he says, no, I don't want you sleeping in here anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, yeah, it's quite an interesting dynamic that kind of plays out, and like, it is kind of sad that like they don't get together or whatever. You know, they've obviously got a connection, and like, and like, it's interesting her justification towards the end of like it being her not living up to his image of her or whatever. And it's like, yeah, lots of interesting ideas. Jamie, last character, like. I think he's really charming throughout the movie, you know? He has a lot of endearing qualities. He's got some funny scenes and lines, including, you know, not just agreeing with this random dude's tale of him giving his girlfriend 3 orgasms, even though he provided no clitoral stimulation.
Yeah. How did you provide clitoral stimulation?
With my penis. That doesn't work, yeah. Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. So,
yeah, I really liked him. I think he's great for the role. It's this endearing, charming character that you like and fits the. And again, from my quick googling or my quick Wikipedia scan of this movie, apparently it's a like semi-autobiographical or whatever. So it's like Mike Mills. Is a person who I guess was raised under a very similar conditions to this, and
with mother and sisters more than random women.
So the idea is like being raised by lots of women and like what that done to him, like not in a bad way, but like
how that affects how that
affects him, and discussions around lack of men in his life, I'm sure, have been brought up by people, and the film does that by bringing up the lack of men or man around his life and what that does to him. And you know, they have all this thing where he's been giving those books by Greta Gerwig about feminism and stuff, and then Annette Bening gets annoyed about that because it's like making him into this person that she doesn't like, and it's interesting because you wouldn't think like that's when she comes across the most prudish in the movie, I guess, is when
well, specifically after he calls her out with this. Yeah. I just thought this was interesting. This definitely isn't directed completely about you and your personality.
Yeah.
This article about someone being depressed and not putting themselves out there. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so you're keen to check out more of Mark Mills' stuff? I think he obviously.
I would be for sure. Yes.
Yeah. So he's got his first film, Thumbsucker, and the second is Beginners, I believe. Of course, coming out to Australian cinemas. So definitely recommend Mark Mills based on this.
Definitely recommend this movie at least. And I was going to watch Come On anyway. That was originally just going to, I guess, would have been my first film. So
yeah,
don't know.
Expectations raised or low?
My expectations definitely raised because I was going into that as critic reception seems good. It's got Joaquin Phoenix in it. Trailer, I like the trailer. I'm excited to see it. Now I've watched this and I'm going, this movie is like fucking, you know, double thumbs up, awesome. One of the best things I've watched this year. So now, of course, I'm going to go to come on, going, all right, you better be one of the best movies I've watched this year. I don't know, like.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let us know what you thought of 20th Century Women. By going to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser or anywhere you can just give the show 5 stars or tell people about the show. And if you like this episode, thought it was worth it all, head on over to the Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
So, sweetie, I don't know if we ever figure our lives out. And the people who help you, they might not be who you thought or wanted. They might just be the people who show up.
Jamie, I also want to say never have sex with just the vagina. You have to have sex with the whole woman.
That's slightly off topic.